sales cycle can be very long, can be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, can be a year. As a startup, how did you manage that aspect of it?
Well, I mean, if you're selling to the enterprise and you're consciously building a company to sell to the enterprise, all of those things are a given. You have to do those things to be able to sell to an enterprise, including the long sales cycles. If you don't have that experience in the Valley and you're trying to build an enterprise company, you always not. I mean, you won't see the value of working with these companies, being patient, and investing upfront to go work with companies of that size, right? And you'll always go after what's easy. And so you see a lot of the B2B companies in the Valley, they do what's easy. They go after smaller companies, 5-10 person companies that don't have a lot of complex requirements, and build for them. And then they find that it's really, really hard to move upstream and go sell to the enterprise. There's a reason why Salesforce is Salesforce and Zendesk is Zendesk. They're two different size companies from a revenue and size standpoint, and they probably have equal number of customers, right? But the revenue difference is 5 to 10x, right, in how much revenue they make, because one sells to very, very large enterprises, the other one sells to sort of the long tail.
What is the advice that you have to other startups who want to sell to the enterprise, but they look at these long sales cycles? In many cases, even getting introductions is hard, but even once they have an introduction, just the long sales cycle and the patience, the need to invest is very, very difficult, because it's just so, that delay, that time that's required is so expensive for a startup, and it's cash that they don't necessarily have and time that they don't necessarily have.
Yeah, so for companies that sell to the enterprise, the scaling or the growth is slower than selling to the SMB initially, right? So, let's say you take two companies, one selling to the SMB, one selling to enterprise class companies, and they start their journey at the same time. Chances are the SMB focused company will scale much faster than an enterprise focused company in the initial years, right? And so after the 3 or 4 year mark, it looked like the SMB company is ahead. But then once that market starts to peak out or bottom out, it happens rapidly in those sort of SMB sort of segments where you've run out of all the SMB accounts you can sell to, and then you have to make this decision to go up market. And at that time, your product is nowhere close to being up market, and then it's literally a company. I haven't seen any sort of SMB focused company become a successful enterprise company. I haven't seen any examples of that, nor have I seen examples in the reverse where you see enterprise focused companies being really good at selling to SMB, right? I think they're two separate markets. They have two separate sort of needs or requirements, and different types of companies will cater to those sort of segments. That's really, so the biggest thing, coming back to your question, which is, what do you really need to do to be an enterprise class company? The first thing you need to do is you need to know that you're building a long company or a long-term company, and which means you need to go find basically you need to go find patient investors, right? Investors who have the patience to build a longer term enterprise class company and are not looking for that SMB sort of, fast growth kind of model, right? So there are the investors, it starts with picking the right investor. There in the Valley, there are those investors that really want the rocket ship B2C style, no sales kind of companies. They basically tell a founder, oh, you should not have any salespeople at all. It should all be like inbound marketing, right? And so there's investors that prefer that. And then there are investors that believe that, no, you should start working with large enterprises. It's going to be slower, build an outbound team. And the two types of companies are very different. So if you look at sort of SMB focused companies, you're investing a lot of dollars in marketing, in digital marketing, and not as much in sales. And you look at enterprise focused companies, less dollars in marketing, more dollars in sort of BDR, SDR, outbound, inbound, having account reps and inside sales, very different sort of models, right? The other thing I would like to add is if you think about how we grew as a company, before we built out our sales and BDR, SDR sort of machinery, the first thing we invested in was customer support and customer success. Because when you work with enterprise customers, they are big brands and you don't want to fail there. And so you want to make sure you've got the best customer support system, customer success teams in place to handle these big accounts and make them successful. So they become case studies. They go around to the world telling them how good you are as a solution provider. And then companies in their class come in inbound. And when that engine starts to work, it's very powerful. My biggest advice is if you don't have a co-founder that has worked in the enterprise category or space, either selling or in BD, then go get one. You need a person that really understands what it takes to work with enterprise companies. That's the first and foremost requirement. The second one is to go find patient money. So if you're going to build a long-term enterprise company, you really want to get funded by a VC that is patient, that knows what you're going to be doing, and that it's going to take some time, and is willing to work with you and help build the company. And so patient money is really important. So I think those two things, if you've got people that have some of the experience that you need for enterprise, and if you have patient capital, then I think you're on your way, right? The rest of the problems can be overcome. It's just, it's just having those two things. Those are the sort of the foundational elements.